So we're talking about physical and intellect, right? We feel like
Mm-hmm.
women on the same page as far as intellect, but men are physically stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Or black men not stronger than white men, but yet we were slaves.
That's a good point.
That's true.
Are they still not stronger?
That's a great
And
point.
yet we are inferior.
I
So
wouldn't say
Yeah,
that.
sometimes it's more than just
That
physical
Mhm.
that gives you power, or it gives you
That's
the
true.
leg up. So I would argue, and then we just like men look at women as the inferior, maybe that's how white people look at us, you know?
yeah.
So
So
it all ties.
okay, I want to walk this whole entire thing through, right? So the thing is what a man's strengths are is different than what a woman's strengths are.
For sure.
I've seen hundreds of women, thousands of women at this point, who can lift with their legs compared to their body astronomically better than most men, but their upper body doesn't have the same strength. They have infinitely more flexibility than most guys, right? So it's not, and you have to understand that even though women can be a little bit more cunning as far as how they deduce social situations, and they can use and like maximize things a little bit differently than men, both men and both women have a pocket that when they operate in them pockets, that's where you truly start seeing them succeed. Part of the reason why women did not build the world that we live in is because they had a better thing that they were suited for. Y'all bodies aren't designed to carry the weights that men are able to carry. You're
For
just
sure.
not.
I'm not arguing
So,
that.
And I,
so then what I'm saying is that when men sit there and say you did not build this world, it's true, you did not build this world, but that's not to say that you didn't help. And a smart person will sit here and say, it's not that women didn't contribute anything to society. We wouldn't have
That's
society if we
what
didn't
I
have
say
a
though.
vessel to carry them, right? But
Right.
that's not also to say that, okay, well, you say, hey, well, we would not be talking face to face if it wasn't for a woman that created the program for us to be able to talk face to face.
Mhm.
But then you got to still go back to the fact that the man created the software and the hardware for you to even get to a point to add on to the thing that you're giving. And I
But then
think
you
that's
got to
where a
go
lot of
back
brothers
before
be like,
that. But then that's my point. Then you got to go back prior to that and say, well, were women even allowed to play? It's just like when y'all had basketball and like these sports. You guys, although you were better in basketball and all of those things, you weren't even allowed to play in the game. And that's my point. So if we were never allowed to play in the game,
How do we
then
know what we would have
you
created?
don't
We
know what we would have been
allowed
able
to
to
do it.
accomplish had we been able to get in the game like y'all. Just like a lot of times when you hear a lot of inventions about men, a lot of times there are white faces connected to those inventions. Why? Because back in the day, you guys weren't even allowed in the space to do those things. It wasn't until you were able to be in those spaces where you were able to invent. So I'm saying it's the same concept. Women weren't allowed in those spaces to be
So
able
it would
to
be hard
invent.
to
So
see
we
what
can't
they
really
would be.
say what we could or could not have contributed had we been able to get in that same space back then.
so
well,
I just want to say back to the slavery thing. So the issue, I think black men and women did not specialize in brutality and means of torture, and didn't desire to own people the way that other groups of people desire to own people. We had a more communal state of mind and a different understanding for ownership, and we didn't try and privatize air, water, and land like that to that extent. So because of that, we didn't form groups in order to come over and create new means of artillery to make sure that you can kill more efficiently. Like it takes a specialized type of mindset to be able to just continue to think of new and better ways to kill larger and larger groups of people. I think that's what we're inferior at. That we've been inferior at mass murder. So I'll concede. mass murder we're inferior to.
And I think that's why it's difficult for us to function in a space now, because we're operating so far from what I think is innate. I think, like, when I've looked back historically in terms of the way in Africa families or communities they were communal. And in terms of this whole hierarchy thing, like when y'all talk about women were revered in back then. And it wasn't necessarily a like hierarchy. Women were like equals in a sense of respected for their differences. It wasn't their differences were respected, and it wasn't necessarily seen as a deficit. It was seen as a contribution to the group. And we've moved away from that just because, and this is, I read something about this recently, is that in a European mindset, they didn't necessarily respect their women in the same way that in Africa, what their structure was, it was two totally different things. And so when you come into a different structure, we've adopted that mindset, and that's just not working for us. So now we're in a situation where it's a power struggle, and we don't really revere each other's differences. We see each other's differences as deficits, and they're not. Like, you can't have yin without the yang, right? So they're different, but they're equally needed.
You're saying you think in Africa that it was a matriarchy?
No, but I'm saying it was more, I can't think of the word. It's a specific word for
Egalitarian?
It was, yes, it was more egalitarian. Look it up. Look it up. Look it up.
Yeah,
Now-
we never, black men never, I don't think we subjugated our women, but I wouldn't say
Yeah, that's-
egalitarian.
All right, I'll tell you specifically. I got to find where I was looking up just information. I randomly read because my husband and I will have discussions about that. And for him, he's like way like the professor, you don't know what I know. I know, I'm not gonna lie, I know through my husband, because that is where he operates. That's where he lives, so to speak.
Right.
So absolutely.
But I think I disagree with you on the idea that men aren't respectful of what women bring, because what most men ask women to do is what we respect women to bring, but the women don't want to bring that anymore.
No, that's what I'm saying. What y'all respect, y'all limit us to a specific role that society says this is what you're and we've heard it in his space, and religion is used to, I guess, undergird that belief that you were just here to support us. That's all you were here to do, is follow our lead. Whatever we decide to do, you support us and help us do that. But I don't believe that. I mean, we can agree to disagree, but I do think that everybody was put here for a specific purpose. And what happens is, I think whatever, let's say my purpose is, that the partner that I choose, whatever their purpose is, ours are going to be in alignment. And that's where that support comes in. I would be able to support what his vision is, because his vision is because it's in alignment with whatever my purpose was versus and his purpose was. So we're in alignment and we can work together. But the way that you guys, and I don't mean you as in you specifically, but I mean in these YouTube streets, in terms of what I heard, is that it doesn't matter what you were doing before I met you or whatever. Your purpose is whatever my mission is, and you need to get on board with that. So, and if your gifts happen to align with what I'm doing, great. But if not, I just need you to drop everything that you're doing so you can focus on helping me with my mission.
Sir, I gave you all credit for creating mass genocide. What are you talking about?